Grab your pen and paper. It's time to rock your moolah. I have a budget now. What?
It's Kevin Gieber here, and wanted to welcome you to episode 2 of Rock Your Moolah. If you were with us for the first episode, we were talking about CSI, cash flow scene investigator. We investigated where your money was going. Today, we're going to decide where it should go. But first, let's smash a myth. A budget is not a punishment. It's not a financial straitjacket. It is permission to spend on what truly matters to you. But before we dive in, let's think of one word that comes to mind when you hear the word budget. Remember, a budget is not a financial jail. A budget is permission to spend money on what matters most. So the question for you, first of all, get a piece of paper and a pen out. What is the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word budget? Is it a bad word? Is it a word that makes you cringe? Or should you call it something different so that it's something that you want to do? So let's go forward with today's episode, Module 2. I have a budget. Now what? If you haven't written your budget on where your money goes, go back to episode 1 and review it, and then come back here and review episode 2, but you don't really need to watch them in order. So we learned, like I said, we learned last week cash flow scene investigation and followed the money. You discovered your spending patterns, you spotted your money leaks, and for many of you, it was a bit of a shock to see where your moolah actually was going and where it was disappearing. That was step 1, knowing where your money goes. Today is step 2, intentionally deciding where it should go. Knowing is powerful. Deciding is where transformation happens. So again, last week you followed the money, you discovered spending patterns, you identified money leaks, you learned where your money disappears, and now we're deciding where your money should go. So you might ask why most budgets fail. Without a show of hands, how many budgets have you started, like a New Year's resolution, and didn't do it after a few days or a few months, a few weeks? It's probably a pain in the butt to collect all the receipts and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you know where your money is going, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to have the money to put it where you want it to go. So most budgets fail. Too restrictive, too complicated, too perfect, those Excel spreadsheets, ignore real life. But in reality, life happens, cars break, battery dies in your car, hot water tank ends, a new fridge after 10 years, friends get married, and then of course there's Amazon. Or if you've maybe heard of a saying called the latte effect, how much money it does cost on that latte at Starbucks every single day over the month. So life is wonderfully, brutally predictable. So let's dive into our next slide on spending plans versus budgets. Now, if you thought of a budget as a chore versus creating a variable, your choice spending plan, we can reframe it to something that you might want to do. Because the word budget carries baggage. It feels like a restriction, like someone putting a lock on your wallet. So we're going to swap it. A spending plan is built on intention. not limitation. It asks better questions. What matters most to me, to my family? What can wait? What kind of life do I want my money to support? Here's your activity. Grab that piece of paper or your notebook and complete this sentence right at the end of the bottom there. It says mini activity. Complete the sentence. I want my money to help me blank. It reminds me of the match game back in the day. I want my money to help me blank. So what do you think? Is it just one? Money to help me retire, help me to have more money than days at the end of the month, help me pay for my children's education, help me be able to take my family on a vacation, that sort of thing. So if you look at your past attempts but failures in a budget, think of it as a spending plan. You get that money coming in, like we talked in episode 1 or module 1. Money coming in, where does it go? Okay. And then we got in needs and wants, variable and fixed, and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you have a spending plan and you've taken module 1, you'd have a budget. Now, what matters most to you? Goals and dreams, of course, drive your spending. Goals are your GPS. Without them, your spending has no direction and income increases it just gets absorbed into the noise. So a list of travel, retirement, home ownership, debt freedom, time freedom, helping family, experiences. Write down on your piece of paper the top 3 money goals for the next 12 months. Now, I want you to be specific, not just save money or open up a retirement account or put more money against the mortgage or go out for supper. I want you to be specific in the dollar amount. So if you want to start saving for your retirement, is it $50 a month? Is it $100 a month? If you want to go out for dinner, well, how much is it? Is it $200, $150? What restaurant? It might seem tedious, but if you name it, then it's a lot easier to be able to complete it. Because just like creating some steps, like 3, 4 steps into a 10-step plan, it's a lot easier to do that than jump from step 1 to step 10. If you are able to be specific, that hopefully gives you some incentive and develops the momentum. So again, write down the top 3 money goals for the next 12 months. And then as an addition, why don't you write down the goals for the next 6 months, the goals for the next 3 months, the next goal for the 1 month. And then also, why don't you write down the goals for the next 3 years and past the 3 years. So you got short term, very short term of 1 month. And then you've also got 3 years and 5 years, or three plus, so that's your long term. So maybe you want to start saving for a big family vacation in 2 years. So that would be both a monthly goal, of course, but also a goal in 3 years, or to be funded in 3 years. So if we're looking at building your financial safety net, now, if you look in a textbook, it's going to tell you what 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. So that would be of take-home pay, not gross, because you don't want to include the taxes in there. It's whatever. If you make $5,000 a month take home, so that's 65 or $60,000 a year in full annual income net. Okay, then you're talking the 5,000 comes in, and then last module you created a budget that you knew how much your expenses were, and then you're creating up to 6 months, but you're starting with a starter fund of $500. Then you're stepping to $1,000, then 1 month of expenses, and then 3 months of expenses, and 6 months of expenses. So depending on your current standard of living and adding inflation to any expenses, or in module one, we talked about expenses like car insurance, house insurance that you can pay on a yearly basis, but you should have it as part of your spending plan, not budget, spending plan on a monthly basis. Whether you divide the total by 12 or whatever have you, it just gives you a nice uh, number to track so you do get to your 6 months. Okay. Now, one might think, well, I have a credit card, I have a line of credit for those expenses. The question is if you're able to cover that, to pay that off with no interest or penalties, that's great. But usually with an expense, it's either something breaks down, like an appliance or a car, or unfortunately, if your body breaks down, you break a leg, become disabled, you're sick, a long-term disability, that sort of thing. You need to know that those expenses are covered so that you don't have to end up moving or selling your house because you don't have enough funds to support you for the overhead, the expenses while you were off work. Now, last module, we talked about needs and wants. We talked about fixed and variable. Fixed and variable. Fixed is a cost every month that comes in. Variable are costs that come in, but it might be a different number. Like, for instance, for me, hydro. It all depends on usage. So it's variable, but I kind of know on average over a year what it's going to be. Okay. Needs and wants are, to you, a need might be a want. To me, a want of yours could be a need for me. Okay. But in general, needs are housing. Okay. But a want could be a condo versus a townhouse. Food. A need would be food, but a want where you want to eat out once or twice a month. Utilities. Okay. Hydro, electricity or heat, whatever have you. Water, depending if it's part of your strata or if you pay it yourself. Or you might have TV or apps. That might be a utility, but it might be a want and not a need. Even though you might have kids that say, hey, I need certain things on TV, to you, it's more I want and it's variable. Okay. Transportation. Do I buy a car or do I take public transit? Insurance. You need your house insurance. You need car insurance. And you need to consider like life insurance, critical illness, long-term care, disability insurance, all those things. And it's a need, but do you qualify? Can you afford it? Wants could be, instead of temporary insurance, it could be permanent insurance. Okay. Wants, vacations, streaming services. Oh, we talked about that with utilities. Dining out, we talked about that with food. Upgrades, maybe you want Amazon without commercials, but you can deal with a need is Amazon, but a want is Amazon Plus without commercials. And convenience purchases. Uber Eats, uh, DoorDash, or do you get in the vehicle and purchase it yourself? Okay. Wants are not bad. The goal is awareness, not guilt. Now, we're going to get to the importance ranking exercise. So, in module one, we were talking about listing the purchases or the spending that you do each month. And then if something is variable or, well, I guess variable or a want versus a need, you would then rank them in order like this as essential, important, nice to have, could live without. So I cut my TV just to cut down on the cost. And now I have apps and Netflix or apps, well, Netflix, but YouTube that I watch some of the commentaries and so forth. So I thought essential or important, and then it nice to have, but now I could live without that. And I saved that $100 a month. Okay. Even though it really goes to the apps. Um, so if you listed out all your essentials, all your importance, for your fixed and variable costs, needs and wants, you will find out your spending pattern. Hopefully, there's more money coming in than going out. But if there is more money for you to spend, are you going to save it or are you going to spend it? I get clients sometimes get a raise, so it's like, okay, should I increase my spending or should I save that raise? Like I haven't, I don't see it, right? Do you go on a holiday on credit card and then pay it back when you get back? Or do you save up for it so then you know that it's already paid for and it's not going on your credit card. So Netflix, gym memberships, second vehicle, daily coffee, that's your latte effect, vacations, and dining out. So on your piece of paper, if you don't have your budget in front of your spending plan in front of you from last module, rank 5 personal spending categories, okay? And then rank them as essential, important, nice to have, and could live without. Now, this is one of my examples I've used over the years, uh, and I think it's going to stick with you. Well, you probably heard of this before. Imagine each of your spending categories that you listed in the last slide as a rubber duck. Okay, floating in a pond in the river. Maybe not in concise rows as that. That's pretty neat if you can get all your ducks in a row and on an angle. But I guess that's a row somehow. When your income changes, you don't panic, you don't freeze, you don't blow everything up. You simply move the ducks around. So income goes down. You have an extra payment coming out of your mortgage. Maybe you have your mortgage every 2 weeks instead of twice monthly. So you get an extra couple payments each year. You might have to forego something that is part of your goals or wants in next month in order to cover something for this month. Okay. Um, you want to be able to have the luxury of moving the ducks around too. And guess what? If you don't have a budget or a spending plan, you don't know what ducks to move around. Okay. And you don't want to go out and buy some more ducks to make your ducks longer so you have more ducks to move around either. Okay. Because hopefully some of those ducks are not stress, as in debt. Uh, Doing this, it builds flexibility. And in module one, we talked about averages. So if you do a spending plan for 3 months, 6 months, a year, the more data that you have is the easier that you can, like, say you had a budget of 12 months. So you took your spending habit, you found out what everything is on a yearly basis, so divided by 12. So then going forward, you know what the average is on the expenses that are not, they're fixed. So they fixed in the sense of they happen every month or on a regular basis, but the amounts are variable. Okay. So you use less electricity, then of course the bill would be lower. If you use more during the winter months, then of course the average or be more payments during the winter months, but on average, you kind of know. So if you're know what the average is and you save more, that can go into your emergency fund, right? If you don't know what the average is and you're just paying, then eventually maybe there might be a spike one month. Or you might have needed to, I don't know, pay yearly instead of monthly on something, or you were paying monthly, but you want to change to yearly, and all of a sudden you have to come up with 11 months of payment up front, right? So you're just moving the ducks around. But at the end of the day, it's whatever's comfortable with you. So you're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning stressed because of your debt. Okay. Now, here's one of the sneakiest traps in personal finance: lifestyle inflation. Like we said, income goes up, spending goes up. And somehow the stress levels stay exactly the same because all of a sudden we have more spending, and that spending becomes part of your lifestyle. And then you might lose your job, or you might have to take a pay cut, or you might have to end up working 4 days instead of five. And then you're going to have to start cutting things out of your spending habit, okay? Or your spending plan. So, um, usually when you progress, you get promotions, you'll have the bigger car, the bigger house, the bigger payments. But still, you say we're living paycheck to paycheck. It's just that you're living with a higher paycheck than you were earlier that year or well, just previously, right? So a raise doesn't mean that you automatically spend that money. Similar to an inheritance or whatever, maybe that money is earmarked for something that heir is giving you money to go on that family vacation or pay down that debt. So, that's exactly where that should go, of course. But at the end of the day, that inflation happens when you increase your payment. Now, that reminds me of a time of shout out to Walmart. They're not sponsoring this, but I went to buy, and I wrote a song about it, and I think I talked about this in the last episode, was talking about inflation. Went out and bought a few things and bought some laundry detergent. And in the laundry detergent, it said, can't remember the price, but regular 25 bucks on for 19 or 17 or something like that. So I bought it, went to the checkout, checked it out, and for whatever reason, I was actually listening to the cashier saying, "Oh, it's $77." And I look at my cart and I had bread, I had milk. Well, those are expensive as it is. But I didn't have enough that I thought to equal 77. So I questioned it. And sure enough, it was a time when you could not not trust the computer. To unknown to myself until that time or the cashier, that laundry detergent was not on sale. So I had to go back, take a picture, bring it back, and prove that it was actually $5 or $6 cheaper. Now, the point is not the $6, even though that could have bought a 4 liter milk, or a coffee, from Starbucks, the latte, or probably not for $6. That's probably half a cup. But the thing is that if we don't check prices, okay, I probably was embarrassed being with my mom when I was growing up, to no fault of hers, but she was checking prices. And now that's genius. As a kid, it's like, oh my goodness, mom and dad, come on, let's just go, right? But how many times did I create my own inflation? How many times have you created your own inflation when you just trust that the computer is right, right? So there's the the inflation of increasing the payments when you get higher income, but also increasing the payments when you're spending money because the prices are wrong. Now, this comes up to, you've probably heard of the 50/30/20 rule, where 50% is needs, 30% is wants, and 20% is for future you. Um, one of the other formulas that I do work with in other programs is called the 20/80 formula. So that is where you have money coming in, your net income, and before you spend anything, you are working with the 10% that you're investing yourself first, 10% in basically what I call the three three tithing, what you champion, or your charity. Okay. So out of every $1,000, $100 is invested, even if it's part of your savings plan. $100 goes to tithing, your favorite charity, or a movement or a program that you champion. And then 80% of that, so $800, goes through your budget or your what you call your spending plan, like we talked about. Okay. But it doesn't matter what, well, it does, but let's just say you have to find out what your percentages are that feel comfortable for you. Because if you put all your money in and the investing and the charity is at the end, most times, if you're tight on money, you're not going to invest in yourself and you're not going to give. Okay. So if you take care of that right away, then you're basing your spending plan on only 80% of your money rather than on uh, 100% of your money. Okay. So whether you have $10,000 a month, whether you have $4,000 a month coming in, you adjust appropriately. And then with the 80%, then you do your needs and wants, you have your priorities, you have your rankings and all that stuff. But in the rough times, maybe you do need 100% of that money coming in to pay everything. Okay. But again, you asked your question, is there any inflation that you can control? Okay. And it, of course, has to reflect your values because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Now, we're going to jump to not a complicated spreadsheet, but some of you out there love Excel. So all the power to you. Okay. But what you need is a simple, flexible system built around buckets. Okay. So you've probably heard of your bucket list. That's your legacy. That's your what you want to do before you pass away, what you want to do before you retire. Okay. But let's think of buckets in the sense of essentials. So your roof, food, utilities, your fun, so your guilt-free enjoyment. Okay. Your future, investing in tomorrow, generosity, and then freedom. Okay. So freedom would be more in my, as a financial planner, it would say at the end of the day, when can you wake up in the morning and phone and retired? Meaning that you're only working going forward, not because you have to, but because you want to. Okay. So that giving future is that 10% of the 2080 formula. Okay. And then you have the essentials, the fun, and the freedom as part of your 80%. Okay. And your freedom will be part of your future, of course, too. But at the end of the day, it's easier if you're using the 2080 formula. Your future and your giving are the first 20, and then the rest of the 80 encompasses your essentials, your freedom, and your fun. Okay. Now, every time you take one of these modules, you take one of these classes, you want to walk away with one win at least. Okay. So choose all, but at least just choose one action. So you want to open up an emergency account. You want to cancel one unused subscription. You want to increase savings by 1%. You want to reduce one money leak, which is back here. Where is it? Way back here. Where's the buckets? Here's the buckets right here. Okay. So that's the budget, sorry. Where are the buckets? Where are the buckets? Okay. Thought I saw a bucket. Here's the bucket, sorry. Yeah, so the buckets, and you can create your own other buckets too. Maybe there's one bucket for say fun could be a bunch of small buckets, right? For day trips, overnight trips, and trips to France. Okay, so you want to either open emergency fund, cancel one unused subscription, increase savings by 1%, reduce one leak, sorry, like the weakest link, um, and move one duck if you need to. Okay. So I guess the first small win would be to create a budget or a spending plan if you haven't done one. And then one small win after today is to open up the emergency account, even if it is a separate savings account. Cancel one unused subscription. Look at the subscriptions that you're doing each month and think, okay, in the last 3 months, have I actually watched Netflix or read a Amazon auto or listened to an Audible book? Have I actually looked at my iTunes or my Spotify and listened to a song? Right? Increase savings by 1%. If you increase it 1%, and then next month you try one more percent, on a dollar, it might be only 1 penny, but at least you increase that a little bit more each month. And move one duck around. Now, next week, if uh, we're going in an 8-week module, okay? So next week is going to be let's get fiscal. We're going to be looking ways to increase income, reduce taxes, eliminate friction spending. We create automation in your spending or savings, cash flow systems, wealth velocity, and keeping more of every dollar earned. Okay, so that's more moving ducks around. That is paying different debts off based on minimums and interest rates, and also drawing money from investments, of course. Okay, so basically cash flow acceleration strategies. And let's get fiscal. The next part of it is show me that your budget rocks. How many years ago? What year would it be? 2013, 14. Yeah, so a few years ago, I started doing stand-up comedy, and my shtick on there was turning 80 songs into financial songs. So my comedy mentor told me that, stop making this sound like a financial education seminar. But where have I come since then? So one of my songs, Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical, Show Me That Your Body Rocks. Okay, I thought, that should be another tune. So the song is Let's Get Fiscal, Show Me That Your Budget Rocks. Okay, so an alteration to that could be Let's Get Fiscal, Show Me That Your Spending Pattern works or your spending plan rocks, right? But just for it was just a joke that I got a few laughs. I just didn't ask if they're laughing at me or with me. But that was my last song that I talked about it and then sang it. And on a future album, I will have my own version of that, which I might even put to this taping too. So, but without further ado, let's review what we talked about. So this week's homework: complete your spending plan, rank your spending priorities, building your emergency fund target, identify one duck to move, and final question, if your money perfectly reflected your priorities, what would you change first? So next week, let's get fiscal. Show me that your budget rocks. Increase your cash flow and keep more of what you learn. So thank you very much for participating in I Have a Budget. Now what? With yours truly, Kevin Leonard Giebert. I'm a financial planner with Green Rock Financial Group. You can find me on YouTube at Moolavie, at Moolavie, Spotify and iTunes under the rockstar Kevin Leonard Giebert, because every rock star needs three names. But truthfully, it's Leonard is my middle name, my dad's name, so it's in honor of, or in tribute to him, honor of him for his support through my many, many years. And I welcome you to the communities online with the links that are part of this module that you are watching right now. So again, till next time, thank you very much for your time, and may you create a spending plan that creates a life that you can live your life and money on purpose. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.